Welcome back, y'all, and as promised in this video, we're going to be talking a little bit about the ModelViewController architecture, or the ModelViewController design pattern, as you might hear it called. So to kind of summarize this, I kind of want to show you what the average developer might do day to day if they came across some term that they didn't understand, or some piece of code that they didn't understand, or something like that. So you're basically looking at what we do all the time, which is get really good at Googling things. So if we search ModelViewController, you'll see this little definition here from Wikipedia that says, ModelViewController is a software design pattern commonly used for developing user interfaces that divides the related program logic into three interconnected elements. This is done to separate internal representations of information from the ways information is presented to and accepted from the user. So that's a pretty abstract way of looking at it, but it's true. The whole idea behind ModelViewController, or really any architecture or design pattern, is to just separate things into much easier to understand concerns. So in an application, in the average application that you're going to work on, you're going to have a view, which is the layout. We've looked at those a lot. That's like the storyboard. And you're going to have a controller, which is like the view controller, which is responsible for doing a little bit of business logic and interacting with the user and then updating the view. And then we also have the model, and the model is the data that drives the controller that then manipulates the view. The model is the part that we really haven't covered yet by this point in the course, but it's going to be a very important piece of this application that we're building right now, because we obviously have a bunch of data in that table view. And then when you click on an item in the table view, we need to display that in the detail view controller, which is all driven by a model. So let's go ahead and click on this little image right here. Hopefully you can see this at the time that you're viewing this video. If not, just kind of follow along with me here. So like I said, the model defines the data structure. So in the case of the application that we're building now, that's a country. And a country has a lot of pieces of data inside of it. It's got a name, it's got a population, it's got an independence here, and then like a flag image. So that's the data that we need to drive the application, which is going to be stored in the model. And in Swift, there's many different ways of defining a model. We can do it with classes. We could do it with structs. We haven't really worked much with structs yet, but we are in this application, and I'm going to show you what that looks like, and I'll even explain the difference between a class and a struct. But anyways, that's the model. And then over here in the bottom right, we have the controller, and the controller basically just contains control logic, as this says, or for an example, it says receives update from view, then notifies model to add item. That's just one particular example, but the basic gist of it is that the controller is going to do any business logic that's necessary and receive any input from the view, which is like that IB action. So the view was clicked on, the view tells the controller that it was just clicked on, and the controller does some logic inside of there. And then obviously we come back to the view, which just defines the display. And in iOS, that's traditionally like the storyboard, or if you come from like a web background, the view would be like the HTML, for example. But that's neither here nor there. The whole point here is that we're just trying to break out what each of these pieces is in iOS programming. So to recap, the model is going to be our class or struct. That's the data that drives the application. The controller, in most cases for us, is going to be the view controller. And the view, which is just the thing that the user looks at, it's the pretty nice thing that they're interacting with. That's essentially all the user's ever going to actually see. That would be the storyboard. That would be the view controller layouts, not the view controller class, but just the view controller layout in the storyboard. That would be the actual view. So now that we kind of know what these pieces are, and we have a little bit better understanding, abstractly speaking, of what MVC means, let's go ahead and implement that in the following videos, and let's complete this application. So I'll see you in the next one.